Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. In the previous session about chapter 8, we saw the chapter began with Arjuna's questions. These are the eternal questions to God every Jeeva has. What is the ultimate reality or Brahman, which is considered as the state of moksha, the complete liberation? Who is the self, who is now the individual in me, who is seeking to gain the completeness, who is seeking moksha or liberation? What is karma? What is that is guiding me from situation to situation? The way we behave, the way we act and react, what decides it? What kind of impressions that are there leading to karma, or what are the results of karma? Fourth question is, what is matter? I'm interacting with inert things. What is it made of, or who made it? Number 5, who presides over the senses for them to function? How are the senses continuously engaged in interacting with the objects? What makes it do so? Question number 6 is, for whom the senses function in the body? I know this eyes, ears, nose, tongue, they are not independently acting. They are doing it for someone or something within me. Who is that? Number 7, the last question is, how to remember God at the time of death? Because the departure from one body to another is decided by not by the physical body itself, it is by the mind. The thoughts that are there in the mind. How then, if I need to reach God, reach the abode of the ultimate reality, how do I remember? These are the 7 questions, and Krishna answered one by one. First one is ultimate reality. It is definitely abstract. It is not bound by time and space and causation. It is changeless. It is both at the same time phenomenal and personal. And because of its being the ultimate truth, it is a substratum of the entire creation. Second, who are you? You are the essence of that same Brahman. In individual bodies, it is present as Jeeva. And it is experienced by you as I am at all times. And it is not participating in anything that you do, but becoming aware of what is going on. And it is the one which is changing from body to body, and it is deathless. Question number 3 is answered. What is karma? That karma is not any action by itself. It is a power that makes the unmanifest to become manifest. And karma of you and me and many others together become the universe. That means all our actions or karmas are interconnected to make the universe function. Every action of yours initiates another, and thus there is a constant chain of events. And the karma is that which decides the course of our journey to the next body. The rebirth is decided by karma. The fourth question, what is matter? The matter is that which is constantly subject to change, and that is the nature of the matter. And nothing is remaining in its original state forever. It is subject to an influence from time, space, cause, etc. And by looking at the matter, we come to realize what is the cycle of creation. That a thing, an object, after some time it loses to be its original condition, goes back to its source, and then again comes back in another form. This is to show how this creation is a cycle, a constant movement. And definitely how we experience a matter, an object, depends upon the instrument through which we see. Like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, etc. are the instruments that we use to perceive the universe. The perceived universe is decided by the perceiving equipment. And that is the nature of matter. Now, who is presiding over the senses? It is called Purusha. The function of the senses are expressions of life, the presence. Purusha is the power behind thoughts, feelings, and actions. So that is residing in us as Jeeva. And the sixth question, for whose sake the entire function of the senses are taking place? All perceptions are for him, are the presence of the Lord in us. All objects are his creation, expressing him alone. All thoughts have him as the subject, I. All beings are journeying towards reaching him only. All things and beings begin in him, reside in him, and merge in him. So this is the concept of the journey in religion, in Hinduism, that everything came from the one, everything resides in him, and everything goes back to him. Just like if you take a golden chain, the chain came from the same gold, and it is remaining as gold, and finally the chain disappears into this gold. In the same way, the whole creation is nothing but came from that Supreme Lord. It remains in him and goes back to him. I think I explained to you about Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Avashishyate. The cause is a complete, it is infinite. Therefore, the creation is also infinite. And in this infinite existence, final dissolvement is only back to the infinity alone. And the last question, how to remember the Lord, is what we are going to see in this section. Remembering me, leave the world. That is, we reach the object of our last thought before our death. He who remembers the Lord reaches him. So this part we will see now. It is even in the worldly parlance, we know that constantly what we think is what we reach. If we are to reach some objective or reach some goal, it cannot be a stray thought. It has to be a constant remembrance. In other words, the thought has to be repeated again and again. Then only there is momentum. Let us say that I want to go from here to take a travel to India. That travel to India can happen only when I remember that I need to go. For that, I need to book my tickets. For that, I need to prepare my bags. So if the thought is not there, I won't even do the first action of even booking a ticket towards India. Now, why do I need to go to India? That also to be remembered. Let us say I am going for a pilgrimage. So going to India is not just for meeting relatives or friends, but for purpose is pilgrimage. All right. Where do I need to go as pilgrimage? So those are also to be thought of. So accordingly, I plan. I cannot land in India and then think about what am I going to do right now. Then that's not the right thing. In the same way, any action presupposes thought. Without thought, action cannot take place. So I have explained to you earlier Action is of two kinds. One is an activity, another is action. Kriya and karma. A kriya is like, for example, breathing. Breathing is taking place whether I am thinking about it or not. Digestion is taking place whether I think about it or not. Blood circulation is going on in my body whether I like it or not. I am growing old whether I like it or not, whether I think about it or not. These are not conscious actions. But a journey is not an unconscious activity. Journey of the body is toward death, that all of us know. And even if you wish, you cannot stop it. So the body's journey is towards death. But the mind's journey is not necessarily towards death. Death is only for the body. The mind's journey is for completing its existence and merging it into the infinity, into the Lord. In religion, what we call it as a Lord. In Vedanta or in Vedantic philosophy, we call it as Brahman, the Absolute. So we as the individual minds are journeying towards to the Brahman. But if we take the body as oneself, then end of our journey is death. But all religions proclaim very clearly that the end of the body is not end of the soul. The soul thereafter takes the journey towards heaven or hell, according to Semitic religion. Christianity, Islam and Judaism think that the person who has done meritorious act in this life will go to heaven, and thus those who have done evil act go to the satanic world of hell. But Hinduism does not consider that a single birth ends in a single destination. A birth is a continuous momentum, a continuum, so to say. Our actions determine reactions and the result of actions. So one has, as I have stated before also, one has been given a chance to constantly change and correct oneself. So birth as an individual, as a human being, is a correction process. If we realize that very clearly, that this human birth is not to end in death. The human birth has to proceed on to the next level of maturity, next level of consciousness. And that is possible only by when we realize that our ultimate aim is to reach the infinity. From finite to the infinity is the journey. If that is so, me, the individual finite entity called the body, is not real. Realizing this is one has to remember the infinite nature of oneself again and again. So your journey is not decided by what you want. It is decided by what you think about what you want. This is also true in the worldly sense. Let us say that I wish to become a singer. By just wishing or wanting to be a singer, I do not become a singer. It is decided by what do I think about it, how much and how often I think about it. And furthermore, in the worldly activity or worldly achievement, I have to do something about it, not just wishing for it. So also when your journey is expedited by repeated thinking about it. So as I said, thought is before the action. When you repeatedly think about it, there is an action that is following it. So this thinking part is what we have to realize as the most important part of the journey. And so even if it is available and it is applicable, in the worldly gains or worldly goals, that thinking about your goal leading to right action towards that, or not just wishing for it, that's what, just not desiring it, merely desiring it will not reach there. So all the more it is for a spiritual journey. A spiritual journey is an inward journey. Therefore, the goal is not external, and no action can lead to that liberation. So, being an internal truth or internal goal, no action will reach it. For example, if I am upset and angry about someone, it is an inward disturbance. Now, what action should I take? My anger cannot be overcome by an action. Unfortunately, that's what we do. We think anger is overcome by an action. So go and hit that person. Go and do something to that person. so that I vent out my anger towards that person. By venting out that anger to that person by action, do you think that the whole thing has stopped? I stop being angry about that person? It is not possible, because my physical action is over, but I am triggering a new set of events there. That person would not keep quiet. That person would not stop talking about me or doing something which will irritate me further. So next time he will do more, and next time I will act more or hit him more. This will be endless process. Therefore, action cannot be overcome, cannot undo a thought, a wrong thought, a negative thought. So therefore, once we realize that the thought is internal, action is external, thought can trigger an action. Action does not have that much influence over the thought. When we realize that spiritual journey is an inward journey, it is even beyond thoughts. So even thoughts cannot reach there. So therefore, there is abstractness, so there is certain amount of vagueness about it, but the scriptures are ready to guide us, to tell us what needs to be done. So first thing that we need to realize is that we as individuals are playing various roles, but we should never forget that we are playing the role. That like a person who is acting as a king on a drama stage should not forget that he has a kith and kin and wife back at home. He cannot become the king just because he is acting like a king. His action as an actor there on the stage, no doubt, is a particular event, a temporary event, but he should not forget that he is in truth, in reality, he is not the king. He is only acting as a king. In the same way, what scriptures tell us is that you are of the nature of God, nature of reality, acting like as an individual born to some set of people as son or daughter or brother or sister, and that is a role that you are playing. That's a small temporary act you are doing. Do it efficiently, but do not forget who you are. This constant remembrance of who I am, as it is indicated by scriptures, is what is called as constant remembrance of the goal. The goal being, I am the infinite presence. I am the infinite reality, deathless, birthless, endless, blissful, joyful self. This constant remembrance make me realize, even while you are acting, that I am not going to get caught up by what is happening here. The role I play may have many different reactions, but I am not going to be victimized by the results that happen because of the role that I play here. This is how an individual who has become aware of his ultimate nature does not become a victim of situations. So playing the role effectively does not mean you should forget who you are. So that is what is considered as a repetitive thinking about the highest reality. Now, Bhagavan Krishna is going to take up a very difficult topic, that is to make us to understand what is to be thought of while dying. Even though we have read about the state of death or the dying process, etc., no one who has experienced death, really speaking, can come back to tell us what it is like. There are people who have gone to near-death experience called NDE, and they have expressed what happens during the time of death. But it is up to us to whether to realize, to accept it or not. Many people look at it very skeptically. But most of them tell us that the leaving the body is a very smooth process, even though there is a certain amount of trauma involved in letting go of the body, more emotionally than physically. But once that process is over, it's a very smooth process of, gliding into a more free and happy state of mind. And many of them who have reported that they have experienced a death, they say that there was a bright light that invites them or towards them that they go. So therefore, here Krishna is trying to tell us that you have to think of that abstract, infinite, all-pervading presence, which is known as, in the Vedantic context, as Brahman. Now, how do you think of Brahman? If it is a person or as a form, yes, I can think about the form. But like space, how do we remember space? How do you even think about space? It goes to blankness. So here comes a beautiful set of verses which talk about how to think or what to think about, first of all. One is that should be a certain amount of comparison has to be done, which is unavoidable. So what is the nature of Brahman, which one has to think about? It's brilliant like the sun. It is having the ultimate brightness, meaning it is all-pervading bright presence. So that is the reason why in India or Hinduism, they have the concept of worshipping the sun every day morning. You get used to worshipping the bright light. And so therefore, Surya Namaskar, in the beginning of the day, a chaste Hindu is supposed to look at the rising sun and do salutations to that rising sun, because the sun represents the Brahman, the brightness, the brilliance, the all-encompassing powerful presence is akin to Brahman. So the first definition or first simile that can be brought about, what is Brahman? Brahman is like a brilliant sun. That's the first one. Second is that this very absolute reality is the ruler of the whole creation. It is that because of whom the entire creation or all the created beings, whether animate or inanimate, whether it's live or inert, all are functioning due to whose blessings or grace. Just like in my body, I am able to see, hear, taste, smell, touch, walk, talk, think. All these are all because I am alive. Similarly, the entire creation is vibrantly present because of the one single living presence, and that presence is Brahman. He is the ruler in the sense everything is acting according to their given norm of dharma. Let's say sun is to rise in the east and it has to set in the west. The earth has to go around the sun, which makes us feel that sunrise and sunset takes place. The wind is blowing, river is flowing, fire is burning. Why, if you ask, there's no question. Why fire is burning? Why water has to flow down, not up? Why air has to flow? Why it cannot stand still? We have no answer to this question because this is how it is. So creation is a set pattern and it goes through the same cycle. So if there is a set pattern or set norm, definitely there is an intelligence behind that. So that very intelligence, the ruler, is Brahman. Third, it is something which it is incomprehensible in terms of time, ancient. It is something which is timeless. You cannot say from this time it started. So Brahman by nature is Purana or ancient. Next is, it is the host of the universe in the sense that it is the substratum of the universe in whose presence not only it is functioning or in whose lap only the entire universe is there. If you think of space on which we are all the planets on Earth are in space. So space is considered to be the host of all the planetary system. But where does the space reside? It's like I am sitting on a chair and chair is on a mat. A mat is in the earth. The earth is on the earth is there in this particular universe, and the universe is where? In space. Where is space? Space has to reside in something. So that which is the very host of the entire universe is Brahman. And it is something which is extremely subtle for us to understand. It is very, very difficult for even the mind to comprehend that. It is most subtle. It is the smallest of the smallest, at the same time biggest of the biggest. They're like an atomic particle. They're the smallest of the smallest, but they can damage the biggest universe also. That much powerful. So it's most subtle, and it is obviously ageless. Age cannot be calculated in terms of years or days or months. Only when with respect to the sun and settling and the rising of the sun, we know a day. How many days have passed since the creation? What is the age of this creation? Nobody can comprehend. It is ageless. And finally, it is not conceivable at all. It is not an object. It is not something which you can perceive. It is not something which we can objectify, something we cannot condition into form or characteristics. That is the nature of Brahman. So what to think of while dying is Brahman, brilliant like a sun, ruler of the creation, ancient, host of the universe, most subtle, ageless, and not conceivable. Now, when it is said like this, anybody would ask this question, hey, if it is not conceivable, it is not thinkable, how do we think about it? So the next part is that how to think about this unthinkable one. How? So the method that is given to us is contemplation. I have explained to you before, if there is an object in front of me, let us say I have a book. So when I need to think about the book, I just have to look at it constantly. And then I know that I am looking at a book which is in front of me, a form. So when you look out, focusedly, it is called concentration. The same focus when it is about the subject, it is called contemplation. The process is the same, but where you are looking has changed. Externally, when you look at it, concentration. Internally, you do the same thing, contemplation. Now, but contemplation, all right, that's a word, a term. What is the definition in this context? What do I contemplate? What do I think about? How do I think about it? So, what is to be thought of is Brahman. That itself is very vague as of now. You say it is sun. So, should I think about sun? Should I think about the entire creation? No, it is not. So, what we need to do? So, here comes the answer to that. First is controlling of the mind. Because our mind tends to go for familiar fields of experiences. Given a chance, the mind will run towards what it knows. To take it towards the unknown, the mind needs to be tamed, brought to our control. By controlling, I don't mean that you have to stop it. It is not even possible to stop it either anyway. It is not an equipment. It's not like a car which you are driving and at some point of time you can stop it. Mind is not like that. Mind cannot be stopped that easily. Mind is not that you can suddenly you can switch it off and on. That's not possible. Even though when we take alcohol or any intoxicating liquor, etc., the mind gets completely confused, bewildered, and also when you take a sleeping pill, it is forced to be quiet. But that control is unhealthy and it is not a conscious act of doing it. So controlling the mind means withdrawal. Withdrawing from its preoccupations, withdrawing from its usual fields of experiences, and therefore slowly the mind has to be withdrawn from where it is already engaged in and bringing it closer. So how do we go about that? Orienting the mind towards the heart. This is how the Bhagavad-Gita tells us how to do the contemplation. Take the mind from its usual fields of activities and bring it towards the heart where there is the love for God, love for the ultimate. Like for example, when you take any bhajan, somebody is singing the bhajan. Once you know the lyrics are about the Lord, whose various characteristics are given, your mind naturally has withdrawn itself from various other fields of activities and focusing on the lyrics or the meanings of the bhajan. Let me give a simple example. Let us say that you are at the end of the day, you are deciding to watch a movie. Okay, so you have finished your dinner or finished your other activities of the day, and then you lie down or which sit on a sofa or put on the TV or iPad or whatever it is, and then start looking at a movie. Now what you are doing is you are withdrawing your mind from its usual activities and focusing upon something which you are interested in. You want to see the movie because it may be the storyline is very important, or the director you like, or the actor in that movie is what you like, or you just want to look at a movie instead of wasting you're doing something else, reading a book or chatting with friends or doing something other activity. Now you love and therefore you can concentrate. In the same way, contemplation is about loving God. Don't concentrate on God, contemplate on God. As I said, concentration is about an object, contemplation is about the subject. Don't make God an object, a person, a being, a form. Make him as your own self. Make him as the one who resides in your heart. Make him as the very source of your own being. Know him as your life. Know him as your own consciousness. So, withdrawing the mind with love into the heart means that very consciousness I am, that very presence I am, the very thinking individual I am, the very breathing individual I am is the Lord, without whom I don't exist. So this way, orienting the mind towards the heart is what is called the shift of attention from external movement of the mind to internal movement. Next is, definitely as you are thinking about the inner presence, there will be other thoughts that would come that will try to distract you. As example, again go back to the watching the movie. When you are watching the movie, suddenly there is a phone call. What do? You want to know who the person is, and then you just look at the number. He said, oh, it's my friend, and he was to ask him, he's going to ask me about tomorrow something. I think I can handle that tomorrow morning. Let us leave it. So you, even though you look at the number, you don't pick it up. Why? Because that's not necessary right now. Because I'm now watching a movie. It's very interesting. In the same way, contemplation is where you leave all other thoughts. Even as they come up again and again to you. Oh, why not you do this? Why not you eat that? Why not you sleep? So these kind of external distractions may come, or somebody who did something, or about something you may have a thought arising. Just leave it. I don't need to think about it right now. Just negating all thought. This is not necessary. This is not me. It may be about body. It may be about bodily comforts. It may be about emotion. It may be about some other things which are to be planned by you for next day's engagement. Whatever it be, just negate. Leave it. Leave it aside. So that is the second thing for contemplation. Third, you have to start training the attention. Once the thought has been reduced, it will become more focused on a single or a set of thoughts which are having same objective. So if Bhagavan, the Lord, is your object of thinking, so in that case, you have to train the mind to keep it in one place. And the method that is given by Gita, Bhagavad-Gita itself, is to keep your attention between the eyebrows. It looks weird to start with. Why should I look at between the eyebrows? No, not you are looking, you are focusing. Your eyes are closed, Your mental eye is focusing on that spot between the eyebrows. This is proved by the many yogis that this power of concentration converting into contemplation increases when your focus is in one place, one point. And also it is said by the yogic masters that between the eyebrows is the seat of consciousness. Just the reason why when we put chandan or kumkum, we put it between the eyebrows. And even if you see the form of Buddha, in many of the forms, you will find a small dot in between the eyebrows. The reason is it is to indicate the seat of consciousness, a physical seat of consciousness. So, the mind is focusing on the middle of the eyebrows, and the next step is the focusing on breathing. See, these are the very subtle steps which Krishna brings us to make sure that our attention is complete and 100%. So to start with, control the mind, take the mind towards the seat of love, which your own heart, where you love the Lord, removing all other thoughts, and slowly take the mind's attention towards the seat of consciousness, that is the spot between the eyebrows. And now the concentration is a little more subtle of the equalizing the prana and apana, the inward outward movement of breathing. We do breathe consciously or unconsciously all the time, but now purposely consciously breathe. So the taking in of the breathing is called prana, and leaving out is called apana. So when you are taking in the breath and leaving the breath, pay attention to that and make sure that breathing in and breathing out both are equalized. In a higher practice, breathing in and breathing out is not the main point. Here the energy is coming into you and energy is flowing out of you. So this energy inflow and outflow is what is to be equalized. But to our present day discussion, present context, we will just leave it to breathing. So prana and apana. Then all these things have to be done very lovingly. Not forcefully, not compulsively, not because it has to be done. No, it has to be done because it has to be done lovingly, because you are journeying towards your own self. You are going towards your own altar of worship. You are going towards the Bhagavan, the Lord who is sitting in your heart. Just like when you want to eat anything, let us say you are given a banana. Now, if you really would like to eat banana and enjoy doing it, you will eat slowly. You are not in a hurry to eat, unless you are very hungry and just want to eat and get rid of it. No, but you want to enjoy the food, enjoy the fruit. You open the peel, look at the beauty of that color, and then take a small piece of it and eat it. So if you give to a dog or any cat, it will just eat. It will not sit and taste it and then sit and mull over it and then, it will just take quickly, it will eat and run away. But human being, as we are, we can enjoy the whole process, and therefore lovingly, meaning with all attention, with all joy, lovingly engage in this whole thing and lovingly abide in this practice. Lovingly engage in this practice, not hurriedly, not forcefully, as I said. And this is to reach the eternal reality, Brahman. That needs to be kept in mind. I'm not doing it as a tapas or as a routine, as a daily practice. No, it is to be done with the complete intention. It is a journey. I'm moving forward towards my own higher nature, the infinite nature, and therefore I have to do it with all attention, all awareness, all love, all devotion, all respect. So controlling the mind and orienting the mind towards the heart, negating all thoughts, training to keep the attention between the eyebrows, making equal of the incoming and outgoing air or energy, lovingly abiding in this practice to reach eternal reality. This is called contemplation. So what is to be thought of is Brahman. How it is to be thought of is through contemplation. All right. So having done this, easy it is for us to take a support. Now, this abstract concept of Brahman is difficult for most people. Therefore, Upanishads and Gita also has said that there is an easy method of making it possible is by chanting Om. This I have explained to you earlier also in another chapter. But anyway, if you see, the example is Om is the bow, arrow is the mind, Brahman is the target. Attentively pierce and become one with that, with that Brahman, like the arrow. So if you understand that Om is the bow, arrow is the mind. The Om, the chanting, is like taking a bow in your hand, and the arrow that you have to place is on the bow is the mind. Meaning, so when you are chanting Om, make sure that you are placing the mind mindfully on what you are chanting. And where you want to reach, the target is Brahman. How do you do that? So attentively release the mind and pierce towards the target. And become one with that, like that of the arrow. So your mind becomes one with that Brahman. That's the ultimate purpose of this entire process. So therefore, Om or Om, A-U-M, is also known as Pranava, the name Pranava in Sanskrit. It represents, A representing the waking state where you and I are now, and U representing the state of dream, and representing the state of sleep. This also I have explained to you before. The target is Brahman, not an object, nor an emotion or a thought. And the reaching Brahman is possible only when one transcends the BMI, body, mind, intellect, through meditation with the help of Om. So Om is only an external support for us to make sure the mind is not going anywhere else, and it is available to us completely and getting released from the very chanting itself. So space being the most subtle among the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air and space, and sound is the nature of space, the sound symbol Om is the means to transcend matter and reach Brahman. So sound is the nature of space, so space being subtle among the 5 elements, so leaving earth, water, fire and air is possible only when we go to the space of consciousness. So when you take up to this chanting of Om, what is most important is what is prior to chanting Om and what is after chanting Om. The space is the silence. So when you take to chanting of Om, don't say Om, 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 Om. It's not like that. Take a deep breath, fully engaging yourself mindfully. The space is occupied by silence right now. The silence was there before. The silence is there after the chanting. In between the chanting also there is silence. Because our concentration is on the sound, we do not notice the silence. In the same way, the consciousness is there before a thought arises. Consciousness will be there, present quietly after the thought subsides. The consciousness is present to support that thought itself. Therefore, while a yogi chants Om, he is not just making Om sound. His focus is not on sound. His focus is on the consciousness from which the sound Om arises as a thought, expressed as a sound through the mouth, And as even he chants the Om, his attention is again on the substratum, that consciousness. And as he ends the chanting of Om, the silence prevails in consciousness. So consciousness was, consciousness is, consciousness shall be. And this practice is easier than the abstract thinking of Brahman, but at the same time here the entire attention should be on the presence of consciousness within us, worshipped as God in the temples and known to be oneself when you focus. So this is a method which Krishna prescribes to Arjuna. Come on, practice this. Then you will know how to abide in Brahman, how to stay in Brahman. What is the final result that one has to reach out of all this practice? What is the purpose of chanting Om or thinking about Brahman, etc.? The final result is moksha. The word moksha literally means no rebirth upon merging the reality. Merging in the reality, merging in the infinite presence, afterwards there is no more coming back. There is no rebirth. There is no need to come back because all your desires to enjoy the world has ended in that realization of the highest truths. So therefore, when you think about bondage, you will be ever bound. But if you are thinking of freedom, you will be eventually free. As you think, so you become. If I am thinking of freedom, obviously that freedom, the very thought, the very consistency of the thought, the repetition of that thought will reach me towards that freedom. As I said, the freedom has to be experienced only in the mind, not as an action, not as a result of some action. By physical action, nobody can be free. So, and what is moksha then? How do you characterize moksha? First thing is, it liberates you from all karmas that lead to rebirth. Every action that is performed by me in the past or performed by me in the present will lead to some amount of result. The moksha itself is by very nature that which gives me freedom from all karmas. All actions that I have done so far, the result will be thereof, would not affect me. And therefore, an individual has no more commitments for the future. That is one thing. Second thing is complete freedom from the mind more than anything else. Action being a gross external thing, and mind is the one which actually binds you. The thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the attachments, the regrets, the likes, the dislikes, the anger, the passion, the greed, the jealous, the pride, all that which I continuously suffer in the state of moksha, when I reach the state of moksha, none of them exists. In the sense that such an individual will still work in this world, but completely devoid of all such emotions and all such feelings and negativities that you and I experience in interacting with the people. It is indeed very rare to find such an individual who is a moksha purusha, a person of liberation. But if at all we have come across such a person, you will notice that he doesn't have a trace of any of this, which means he is free of all the various shackles the mind will create. And at the same time, such a person enjoys a constant inner bliss, which cannot be even described, because it is not like happiness gained out of some object, some achievement, some accomplishment, somebody praising, somebody talking good about you. No, those kind of happiness is not what we are talking about. This is a bliss which is within oneself, and he continuously experiences independent of all external influences. Even if he is in the most sorrowful situation, his mind is in bliss. Even if he does not have anything at all in his life as others have, he is still in bliss. And that is the magic of this realization. You cannot stop him to be happy. He is continuously engaging in that state of happiness and with no reason. with no external reason or dependence. And because of which he has unconditional love for all living beings. For he doesn't depend upon anyone for anything. His joy is permanent, and therefore his love does not need any reciprocation. He doesn't seek anything in return. He just loves without expecting nothing from anybody. So that is the unconditional love we see in the case of great saints who have reached the state of moksha. Now, many people think the moksha is probably a thing that one achieves after the physical body's death. No. But it is also possible. Once the physical body is gone, obviously the people don't see him anymore. He has merged into the infinite reality. But more so, when he is alive, to see such a person who is living in such a great bliss itself is a blessing. So see, his bliss is our blessing. So that is the state of moksha which Vedanta or Bhagavad-Gita here talks about. The practice is therefore threefold. To summarize this portion, let me put this way. One is the self-effort, second is the letting go, and third is the prayer. Let me explain that in little detail. The self-effort is constant remembrance of the state of freedom. Krishna says that ananya chintanam, which is a continuous thinking that has to take place. And even if you look at the form of God in a temple, he is only a symbol of freedom. He is representing the state of freedom. He is showing you what that state of freedom is, the blissful, joyful, unconditional presence. That is what is to be understood as the form of God, who is expressing his state of total, unconditional love for everything in this creation. So the constant remembrance is the self-effort that one has to do, one has to put forth. The second one is the letting go. The letting go of or leaving all preoccupations of the mind, influences of the senses, and this requires practice. Definitely a practice necessary, and practice being not to allow the mind to go in its usual fields of activities and the senses to usual fields of its sense perception, sensuousness. And letting go of the thoughts as often as possible. It is the choice that you make. Nobody else can. If a thought is annoying you, you choose to let it go. Nobody else can take that away from your mind. You have to do it. So if a person is annoying, or a thought is coming about something else, or an anger, or any lusty thought, or any passionate thought, or any jealousy thought, or any other thought, any regrets, any unhappiness, any unpleasantness, you choose to let go. Swamiji, it is so difficult. Yes, it is difficult. That's why it's called practice. You realize that nobody else can do that for you. If you think that some medicine will take care of it, or something else, then it is no guarantee that it will not come back. But when you choose to let go, it guarantees that it would not come back. Because once you know how to let it go, every time when it comes, you can let it go. If you take some pills or medicine or some other means to let go, then you become dependent on that. That's why we become slave to our own mind. And the next one is the last one, prayer. So when we lack the strength to let go of unwanted things, we seek the help and strength from the Lord. So remembering the Lord and asking His grace to give us the strength to give up that. That's why may thy grace and blessings flow through us. Let that grace flow through us so that I can easily let go of unwanted mental occupations and other thoughts. And also, what is unavoidable, what you cannot do anything about, you just submit to the Lord. You said, okay, Lord, you take care of it. I have tried my best. It is not possible for me. Now it is up to you. It's like a person who is prepared for the exam and has remembered most of the things. And then before leaving and before entering into the examination hall, or where he has to submit the project or answer his questions, he say, okay, I have studied my best. I try to remember as my best. Oh Lord, make sure that I remember all of that when I'm writing. So you still seek some higher power to help you to achieve things. So in the same way, I have done my best to do whatever I can, but now it's up to you. I leave it to you to take care of it. That is called prayer. Prayer is not begging. Prayer is asking for strength to let go. So that's self-effort, letting go, and prayer. This in essence will be the nature of a person who wants to achieve the infinite nature and practices at the time of death or even before that. As I said, that death is not something which will tell you and come. So therefore, all the time when we put forth this effort, when it comes to the time to leave, we are ready. We are not caught red-handed. We are not caught unaware. So we are ready for a journey ahead without any regret about what we have done so far. We will see more of the teachings from chapter 8 after the summer. So we will end it here. And next week you can have a discussion on the points that we have presented in this video. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.